Welcome to the second half hour of the Factor Uncensored. The stage is now set for a historic case testing the limits of presidential immunity. The U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to rule on whether or not former President Donald Trump can be formally and criminally prosecuted over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election back on January 6th. They're expected to hear arguments in late April. Joining us to talk about this, University of Houston downtown professors, Dr. Dietrich von Bietenfeld and Dr. David Branham. Dr. Branham, first of all, this is the first time we're dealing with a U.S. Supreme Court case like this. Everything about President or former President Donald Trump is historic.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a president actually be charged with a crime before. Even Richard Nixon didn't get to that point. Right. They pardoned him before he was charged. So the Supreme Court has never had to test this. And by their statement today, they want to draw a line in the sand. This is what this means. Presidents have immunity to this point and then not to that point. Where that is, we don't know yet. We'll find out probably in June, July, somewhere around that time. But that's what they're looking for.
What do you think they will say?
I don't think he's going to get immunity for the election charges that are against him.
Even though the court is more conservative than liberal right now.
Yeah, but they've given him losses before.
We do remember that.
They have not hesitated to do that. I think what they're going to say is that if a president is doing his duties, then he has that immunity, because you don't want to be going back and charging a president who was conducting a war or something like that. But in this case, I don't think they're going to say that this was part of his duties. This was part of an election. This was electioneering. So they may be, I may be wrong on this, but I think that they're going to say he is not immune in this case.
And of course, we will likely see the majority. But when we look at the conservative court members like Amy Coney Barrett or Clarence Thomas, who would likely side with him despite logic, despite what we know the law to be?
First, Clarence Thomas has proved himself to be there. Amy Coney Barrett has proved herself to be one who may go against that. For instance, she was against...
And she is an appointee, a Trump appointee.
She's a Trump appointee, clearly conservative, but I think her priorities are the Constitution. She doesn't have an ideologically driven decision base. What she does is look at the Constitution and interprets that. And so I think as a young member of the court, that she wants to make sure that the court keeps its integrity. So I mean, she may be on there for 25 or 30 years. Clarence Thomas is just the opposite. He's only got a little bit more time probably on the court, and he's clearly a conservative decision-based justice. He's going to get that conservative decision-making all the time.
All right, Dr. von Bietenfeld, your thoughts on this case. What do you think, how do you think the courts or the court will rule, the high court?
I think there are a number of cases. Remember, we're looking at over 91 different indictments, and then the corollary matters, such as removing him from the ballot, such as the election interference charges. Can these things proceed? And so when we think about the broad scope of the various charges, from fraud, more civil in nature, and the criminal incitement charges, I think there's going to be a little bit of dissent. Remember, you don't have to just say yes or no on the Supreme Court. You can have a concurring opinion. You can have a dissenting opinion. So I think there's going to be nuance at different levels. I agree with Dr. Branham. I don't think they can really completely sort of insulate or remove liability for criminal actions outside of the scope of the presidency. The purpose is there. And I think an easy parallel for people to think about is Air Force One. You can use it for presidential purposes, but you're supposed to reimburse if it's for a political trip. So of course the presidents, Herbert Walker Bush, Clinton, they used the heck out of that thing for campaigning. But Barack Obama actually reimbursed many of those trips at a certain percentage. So at the end of the day, we know that we have bright line tests to say, with a little ambiguity, this is campaign, this is presidential. So the same thing, this is citizen Trump, this is President Trump. So I think there's going to be nuance.
We know this country is divided politically when it comes to Democrat or Republican, conservative or liberal. But if this court says that former President Trump is immune, what kind of reaction will we get in this country, you think? And 20 seconds to both of you.
I think it's going to be a lot of relief on both ends. One reason is I think it's going to reinvigorate opponents of Trump, because they are going to say, okay, fantastic. Now we need to be even more sort of invested in reviewing who we pick on the ballot.
All right, Dr. Brennan.
If they declare that everything is immune, that's going to cause great concern with the presidency. Anytime that a person is considered to be above the law, there's problems. So I don't think that will be received well if that happens.
All right, we're talking about a monarch, a king.
Yeah.
Which we didn't want in this country when we started it.
Exactly.
Thank you both for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. We appreciate your time tonight.